filling.
He's talking about the fence getting in bad shape out there.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
How are you all?
How are you?
Where's Matthews? Oh, that's dog. Girls tell me what my election class day was. I say he didn't rank
I
me
gotta
that
get his last
one.
name, but he was at my sister's,
No,
sister-in-law's. We had a party, and he was there, and he used to go to your church.
He has to be at one.
Real nice guy. He was into cars, selling cars and real estate. But you'll know his name when
He
I say
got one of
it.
me.
But he was really, you made a big difference in his life while he was there.
Are these add-ons or are they?
Morning.
Sir, how are you?
They did?
How you doing?
Already bought them? Okay. Okay, perfect. We'll keep it here. Well, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Judge. Morning, sir. How are you? Staying busy? That's what I hear.
No, I haven't talked to anybody about it.
Morning. I'm just, I'm getting mine.
No, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to anybody about it.
Okay.
Well,
Well, Robert, wasn't it today that it had to be?
No, we don't have to do it today.
Okay.
It
So,
has to be done today.
don't
I'm not
shoot
sure
me.
why it's on
Just
there.
couldn't do it before the
'Cause I realized I
eighth.
forgot
Couldn't
to
do
tell
it before
you.
the eighth.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood. I thought I had a deadline. Okay.
2 o'clock and 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
Today. I got one
That's
at
what I
2
didn't
o'clock
understand.
and
So
6
we're
o'clock.
dealing with those three names again. It's back on the schedule for the day, and yet he never got to do it again.
We'll go ahead and get started here. First thing we'll do is call the meeting to order. Clerk will take the roll.
Magisters Miller,
Here,
Davis.
Present.
Blanton.
Here.
Constables.
Present.
Passley.
Present.
Craycraft.
Present.
Next item on the agenda is going to be the invocation, and Pastor Jeff Gaines from the Christ Church of Winchester will lead us in the invocation. Please remain standing for the pledge.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for today, Lord. Thank you for the sunshine. Thank you for breath in our lungs. Lord, thank you for the capacity to be here in this room, Lord. Thank you for the freedoms we enjoy in this country. And thank you for every person that's present, Lord, and every family that's represented. Every good gift comes from you, Lord. Most of all, we want to thank you for your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Lord, thank you that he lived a perfect life. Thank you, Lord, that he died a sacrificial, substitutionary death on our behalf. Thank you, Lord, that he rose from the grave and that he's ascended to the right hand of you, Lord, where he's been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Lord, I pray that you will bless these public servants, Lord. Thank you for their sacrifice. And I pray, Lord, that they will govern in agreement with your word for the good of our city and our community and to the glory of your name. Lord, we thank you for them. We pray your blessing on this time. We pray your blessing on every conversation. Lord, most of all, we pray that your kingdom come, your will be done on this earth, in this community, in this room, in every person's life, as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it looks like the next on the agenda will be the public comments, and we have 3 speakers. Magistrate Passley.
Yes, sir.
Joyce Pasley. I sit on the board at Soil Conservation and would like to speak to you all about the dead animal removal to increase public health and end the dumping or abandonment of large dead animal carcasses in 2020 the Clark County Fiscal Court under the supervision of Road Supervisor Alan Curtis. The County Road Department began the construction of a 120,000 square feet facility, and the composting program came online in April 2021. Since that time, as many as 2,000 dead animal carcasses with occasional daily rates as high as 48 per day have been removed from farms and waterways in Clark County. The historical cost of this same removal would have been $100 per head. So the overall cost, $200,000 to date. The program saved $100,000 in local animal removal costs and 2 jobs employed people. 2022, the compost program sold $25,000 in composting soil enrichment product to local farm operations. Additionally, the large animal manure disposal for the University of Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky large animal programs was the final disposal of wood chip materials produced by county and commercial removal operations. So the dead animal program to the farmers has been very important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judge, I'd just like to add, on April 28th, the Soil Conservation at their yearly meeting recognized the accomplishments of Alan Curtis, and he wasn't there to accept his award. That's why Joyce came and spoke this morning, because he was at the Southeast Regional County Engineers Conference, for which his peers throughout the state of Kentucky nominated him, and he was runner-up for the Southeast region for the county road engineers. So just because he wasn't here to receive the award that Joyce spoke of at the Soil Conservation, I just would like to recognize him, and if everybody will join me in a round of applause for Alan. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Perry Wilson. I'm sorry, didn't see you back there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't think I need to introduce myself, but just in case I do, my name is Carrie Wilson. I'm the director of the CSIP program here in Winchester and also the deputy.
Put your,
Oh, the microphone.
yeah, just,
Thank you, Magistrate.
no worries.
Thank you. Yes, I like to hear myself on the radio tomorrow morning. So I'm very glad to be here with you. I just want to address the budget. I did not know that you were having your budget meeting Monday. I did notice that there were 2 department heads or 1 representative of the department head and the department head itself here, but I didn't see any other heads here. Typically, department heads are present for one very important reason. If you have questions or you're not sure what a line is or what the money is for, then you have the opportunity to ask that person directly. So I did listen to it on YouTube. What a wonderful thing. Social media isn't always fun, but in the case of YouTube, it's pretty nice to be able to watch it. And so I just want to answer a few questions that I heard you as magistrates. Magistrate Davis, I heard you ask what storage utilities are. Storage utilities are simply the utilities that are for the storage buildings on the premises. One is for the premises. All right, sir.
Hold the bottom end,
Hold the
Robert.
bottom end for a second. Mm-hmm, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Even I need help, most of the time anyway.
And So storage utilities are for the two buildings that we use for storage. One is the storage building that's actually at the EOC, and the other is actually the storage building that's at the County Road Department at 5 Hopkins Lane. I heard one thing that was said that I really want to clear up, and that was that the special CSIP line is the pass-through money. All of it is pass-through money.
Pastor Moon.
So if I write a bill for Kentucky Utilities, and Ms. Mayhab pays it, within a 30-day window, I have to process the reimbursement claim. You get it back. You don't get it back from the animal shelter's KU bill. You don't get it back from the road department's KU bill. You don't get it back from this building's KU bill. So in the last less than 12 months, you have received back from just CSIP dollars alone, $704,000, $733.54, okay? Now, last July, I prepared my 23 budget, and it was approved by FEMA. So the budget for CSIP has already been pre-approved. And when you cut some of those lines, you're actually taking away money that we've already been promised. It's already in the CSIP budget. Do you have any questions for me?
I think I did mention it was all pass-through money, and
You did.
apparently somebody said I wasn't correct, so.
Well, you were
No,
correct.
The question is that we have a line item for the special CSEP, which only shows the revenue in the revenue side, and then we have the expenditure of the 600,000.
But when we started the
But the
whole.
rest of the expenses are, but we don't show revenue until it actually comes in.
Yeah.
That was the statement.
All of it's
I
pass-through
indicated
money.
it's all pass-through.
It is all pass-through money.
Yes,
And
it
and
is.
for those of you who are new magistrates, you wouldn't know this, but those of you who are seasoned do. There's only one difference. The Emergency Operations Center building itself is on a 95% cost share basis. In other words, 95% of what we expend through the Emergency Operations Center comes back to the county, and 5% does not. And you may say, why is that? Well, because 5% is deemed Emergency Operation Center. And so because we have some of that working out of that building, you know, Frankfurt wants to be a little fair with themselves. And so they say, well, it's 95.5%. But everything else is 100% reimbursed. The main project that we worked on for so long is coming near to an end, I'm happy to say, and that's our 2 tower projects. And that's 100% reimbursed. And everything outside of the EOC is 100% reimbursed. So the bottom line is my budget for 23 was approved in 22. I'm actually working on 24 budget right now and getting ready to go to Frankfurt, no, I'm sorry, not to Frankfurt, actually just to Madison County to discuss that with FEMA. One other thing I want to add to you, put in your minds in August, I'm probably going to have Director Charles Williams from Atlanta, Georgia, who is over the CSEP Manager Program for Region 4, to come, and we're probably going to have a special call meeting because we are getting ready to start shutout or close down. And we're anticipating that to be done in November of 24. And so that means no more money. So the budget that you have for the Emergency Operations Center going forward will not be reimbursed anymore. And there will be a lot of things that you'll need to think about as a body. Do we want to continue expending? Like, for example, do we want to continue expending on the sirens? With people having so many accesses to other notification modes, such as their phones and their internet and their telephones, their internet, their iPads, do we want to have the outside communication awareness sirens or not? That's just one thing. But the bottom line is, I would prefer you not to have cut the salary. I could care less about salary. I would like to have a person to help me. I'm doing 3 jobs and being paid for 1. That would be nice to have someone to help me, but it's hard to find someone who knows what to do. I'm working on that, but I would prefer you not to have cut the maintenance building and the utilities, because I had a lot of problems with the building last year. I actually had to transfer some monies just before the budget year ended last year from one line into another because the equipment that was there was beginning to show wear and tear. And because it was showing wear and tear, my utility bills were going crazy. It took time to peel that onion and figure out what exactly was wrong and then what to do going forward. We have remedied that. We now have a regular maintenance contract to take care of those particular pieces of equipment that had not been regularly maintained. So we shouldn't have that problem, but I anticipate that things will go higher. Your utility bills are higher, I'm sure, Steve. So are mine, Mark. And unfortunately, it's going to continue. But I would ask you just to consider not cutting the budget for CSEP because this money comes back to you. Okay? Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
You were talking about not being at the meeting. I had said numerous times and voiced my opinion that I think every board or head of the department should be here during that time.
And
so-
we have
So
in
that
the
I can
past.
ask questions. But did you not receive any type of an email or anything that told
No,
you?
I did not know it.
Okay. All right.
Even during COVID, we had Zoom meetings. We had ours, and we hosted it at the EOC. There's a lack of communication. It can happen. It happens when you have human beings involved.
Sure, I
We're
understand.
human. We're flawed.
I understand.
But I basically wanted to make that comment to apologize for not being here because
Yeah.
when I heard the questions, I thought, gee, if I were just there, I could answer
Exactly.
those questions.
Well, I apologize you didn't hear about it. And
That's
we'll
okay.
make a change to that if
And
it needs
last
to be done.
footnote, a personal invite. I know all of you guys do get the emails regarding the DES meetings, and I know a lot of you have conflicts and can always come. But if you could come at least once or twice a year, you would be exposed to your entire community and what's going on within it, city and county. And if someone, a constituent, calls you and says, why is Broadway tore up? I don't understand. You can go, hey, I know the answer to that. We had that in our DES meeting. You'd be surprised how valuable that information is for you. So second Monday in the month, 9 a.m., I realize you can't always come. I understand that totally, but it would be so worth your effort to come once in a while. Everybody's invited. You typically get my emails. If you don't, yell at me because I've forgotten to add it, but it's the second Monday in each month. Any other questions?
Thank you, Perry.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is our treasurer, Alicia Mayad.
I've had a few things. It's just, I didn't get on it. I got like agenda. So, first one, it is on the training incentive.
I put it on there.
I will.
Yeah, they're gonna start working on all that.
I will look Manager Pasley.
They get it notice of it or something. Yeah,
I would go.
no
payroll.
question.
I would.
Thank you.
Payroll. Processing day. That is today. So if you all
Thank
could
you.
approve this, he has completed training hours. If y'all would not mind. The approval that way that we can put it on his payroll for today.
I make a motion that we approve that.
And I'll second it. You need to recuse from that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll recuse myself from the vote.
I'm just bummed you beat me there. I was like 2 hours shy, dude.
We
I'm working it.
we have a motion and a second. Any
You have to
discussion?
wait another month, so.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Alicia.
I know, I have like a stack of stuff here. Oh, and this one's gonna be. Oh, I'm so sticking that to Michelle, I'm sorry, that was one that's not sticking. Talked about this one.
Is that the same one that was on the DNC?
No, it's not.
Okay, so
This is
this is replace it?
new.
Yes.
Thank you.
This one is completely new, it is not a replacement.
Oh, it's not, okay.
Yes,
so
like
it's
this is additional.
It's additional, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
I would've
so-
pitched it, sorry.
Yes, no, it's okay. Okay, so a few meetings ago, we approved or out of fiscal court, they approved the budget amendment.
that included a transfer of appropriations for the jail fund. Because I had informed you all that the jail was going to go over the appropriations. I talked to DLG, and they said that the budget amendment was not going to be necessary because it's a transfer. And so they informed me that this is the best way possible, that we can move the appropriations only. We've already moved the cash. But this is for appropriations only, in order for them to spend the cash that we have already transferred. And it's coming from the general fund and then going to the jail fund. You can see on the back that I had correspondence, that talked to DLG, and they thought I said that this was sufficient, and then I worried about the county attorney as well. So for this, I need a motion that we rescind the budget amendment, and then I need an approval for the transfer also. So we have to take back the budget amendment that was not necessary after it was reviewed by the state local finance officer.
I'll make a motion that we rescind the budget amendment
So budget amendment 3, I believe.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that, Madam Clerk? 3. Rescind
Number 3.
budget
Mhm.
amendment number 3.
I second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
And DLG said that wasn't necessary at all?
Right.
Okay.
We had put on the CDBG grant on there as well,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not going to spend it, and so.
Won't make any difference.
Yes, we didn't want to pay for the budget amendment if
I got you. Okay.
I wasn't necessary. I was just throwing it on there extra, so.
Any other discussion?
Can I just to make sure that I'm helping? If you have any reservations about that at all, and you think that it'd be best to leave the CDBG part of the amendment in place, it'd be perfectly fine if, Master Constantopoulos amended his motion to rescind in only those portions relating to that additional amendment. I don't remember what the number was, $600,000, whatever.
Right.
To leave that CDBG part in place if you need it. I didn't
But
want
then we
you
got to
thinking-
pay for it, and so I was just trying to save some county
I just wanted to make sure
funds.
that you were leaving yourself in a good spot. I don't know, I don't remember, but I didn't want you to think you had to do it all, so.
Right. I appreciate that. I believe that's the best option.
Okay.
So the motion is to rescind budget amendment number 3. And we have a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So on the transfer,
Mhm.
because I haven't seen this.
Right.
So we're taking it from the general fund where we had appropriated for engine 1, which hasn't come in,
Right.
and then moving it to contingent appropriations.
Mhm.
And then taking it out of contingent appropriations and then going through the 9,300 account
Which is the reserve for transfer.
reserved for transfer into the jail
Or reserve for transfer.
or coming
and then
out,
into their contingent.
and then going into the jail, and then out of the jail 03 account into the contingent appropriations.
Mhm. And then I'll transfer it from there. For the necessary, out of the expenses. It looks a little funky, I know, but.
I think we've done something very similar before.
Yes.
And you worked on this?
We have a couple of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, county treasurer's a tough job, and, I think that Alicia has done all that she can to, put this transfer, in proper position. I think it's a proper transfer.
So
Thank
just
you
so
for your
that I
help.
understand, where's the transfer for the money back to 0151200-441C come in?
We will need to transfer from the line items that we've got in the general fund. This is the, that's the only line item that they had the available funds in. And that way that I didn't have to do, that way, I didn't have to pull, I didn't have to pull from multiple appropriation lines. So I just chose the one, but we can transfer back into it if the fire truck, if it does get here and we need to pay for it. By June 30th.
Just
I
for-
will, I will piece it together, but it's just gonna be,
Let me just say this, and maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, so, I'd fit out any one of these windows if you decide to cash me out one of them. The jail needed the money, the cash had to be transferred, the general fund has one bank account, general fund account. There needs to be an appropriation to increase the line item where the jail received the cash to spend it. That appropriation would properly come from the general fund somewhere as an inter-fund transfer, instead of going to 6 or 8 or 10 different accounts looking for the 600,000 for unspent pieces of appropriation. Alicia's went to one big block and got an appropriation from there to transfer it over to those 3 budget funds so that the jail can, as opposed to amending the budget to show that increased revenue, since this didn't come from an unexpected source, it came out of the general fund, that alleviated the need for a budget amendment, that leaves us need to make a transfer order to increase that appropriation.
That's right. Yeah.
Well said.
pay for the truck if we need to.
Motion approved.
Second.
Thought we already had a motion. We
No,
didn't?
that was for the resolution.
Okay, how'd we get the discussion?
We were just,
That was on
we're
the budget
talking about
amendment.
it.
That was on the budget amendment, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, Daniel.
Okay.
No problem.
They all run together.
Yes.
I didn't want to make a motion because I wasn't sure what was going on.
I know, I wasn't either for a while, I had to,
Well, I mean, this,
I had to work through
I
it.
went and looked, we've done this before.
yeah, we have, but it's just a little funky,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Right, and here is the budget. Here's the budget, bunch of all the numbers that were approved on Monday, or that were talked about on Monday.
Okay.
Nothing, I mean, here's approved.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Merci beaucoup.
And I got the one thing, we received, we received a letter from tourism. Back in March, and they requested, out of the budget amount, they requested it to be 10,000 instead of the I would get 8,000. So I wanted to see if you wanted to change it, or if you wanted me to leave it at the 8 instead of the 10.
This is for the
I did
Civil
not
War
know.
fort?
Yes, this is for the Civil War fort.
I've talked to Nancy about this. Is there some way we could just absorb that into the county, because that's all it's for is for mowing? Is that, let me ask you, Nancy, would that be a smoother process if the county just paid for the mowing, or?
Well, since we're basically just a pass-through
So whatever it costs, it costs. Just a thought.
Just wanted to make sure that that got discussed, because I did have a letter, and it was not, involved in the budget, so I wanna make sure. If y'all do want me to change it, I can change it, or if,
Well, we don't see any of the requests at all, so.
Right,
so
right, I understand.
To not have seen this one is unusual, because for the last several years, we've not seen any requests from any agency as to what they're requesting as opposed to what's been proposed, so.
Right. I've got it all, if y'all need
I'm
me to
sure
see
you do.
anything.
I'm
I
sure
was
you
like,
do.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Alicia.
Now, I see that I will do the first reading at the next meeting. 'Cause it's got to be for, I've got to do it for the 1st of June.
Thanks, Alicia.
Magistrate Bland, we need a motion on that? Or what?
If we wanna, which
wasn't a motion.
when we do the budget, we can
We can
consider
do
it when we
whatever,
approve the budget.
In the next meeting.
first reading,
Just
next
make a
meeting.
note on what she handed out, and the actual request was for 10,000, but, I mean, once we start doing that, we probably need to make a note for all the other line items that other departments requested as opposed to what was discussed, yet not approved, so. But I'll just make a note in my margin that the request was for 10.
Just to be clear, what we did in the budget is all the requested, for the most part,
Okay.
all the budget, the original one was the requested from the budget meetings, except for the Parks and Rec.
Okay. I knew theirs was significantly more, I do know
It
that.
is. So, I think that is the only one that, the original budget, I did not include,
Okay, thank you.
except for the tourism, obviously.
Requested 10. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda will be consider approval of the minutes for April 27th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next will be the consideration of the transfers list, item 7.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Do we need to note the difference in these two transfers so they won't be confused in the minutes, or does it make any
I've
difference?
already got a note for mine.
Oh, you've already done it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Because when I realized that was gonna be a second one,
Thank you.
I've already noted that.
Thank you, Michelle.
Uh-huh.
You're on top of it.
For once.
Civil party.
You got first and second.
We did, okay. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we need to do the second bill, please? Or, I mean, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Pre-authorized.
Yes, never mind. So,
The next one is a supplemental. There's like additional bills that I had to prepare them as other finance officer, and she's out.
Oh, this one.
So I had to add some bills that were not completed by the time of the bills list.
do we need to approve them separately or together?
They've been approved all together. I mean,
Okay,
Yeah.
so, there a
Motion to approve the bills.
motion and a second, anywhere?
Second.
Have motion and a second, any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we not have a,
She didn't have
We
one,
just-
I don't know.
okay, so no action on 9. Have a note in the minutes, item 10 will be the Clark County Treasurer's report for April 2023.
I just had one question, and this is for County Attorney Elkins. We usually receive that rental reimbursement twice a year, and we've not received any yet. Is that something we have to bill them for, or do they just automatically send it? I know they had an increase in
On the
rental reimbursement for the,
yeah, the child support rent.
yeah, because
we've
usually it
got-
shows up like in January, and we still haven't gotten it.
Yeah, it's, you only get $55,000 or $50,000 in reimbursement, and there was none available last year.
Okay.
After the program, was able to operate. I haven't made one for 2022 yet.
Okay. Okay. I just
will,
noticed,
though.
I just noticed it was still zero, and it usually pops up in like January or something. Thank you.
Item number 11 is going to be a note in the minutes for the Monday morning memo from the Industrial Authority for the week of April the 24th.
I've got a question on that. Brad, when you were looking at different industries to possibly do some expansions, did you find anybody that was interested in doing that?
Yeah, there's still some due diligence being done.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Very good, thank you.
Next, item number 12 will be a note in the minutes for the jailer's report for the month of April 2023. Next note in minutes is the May 2023 salary or wage anniversary increases. Next is consider an approval of an order of the Clark County Fiscal Court appointing Janice Smith, Gardner Wagers, Eric Vetter to the Reapportionment Committee of Magisterial Districts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Judge, we've not had the opportunity to submit additional names. I know we had talked about that, and I had suggested a process, and another magistrate suggested we talk about them before we appoint them, and we've not been afforded that opportunity. And by the way, on the agenda, there's two misspelled words on that agenda. It's not Gardner Wages, it's Gardner Wagers, and it's not reappointment, it's reapportionment. So those need to be corrected.
Okay.
But then I would move that we table this order until we have such time to submit other names, and if we have to submit them to you, Judge, we can do that. But I have some names to submit as well.
Well, Judge, I just, as you know, this had originally gotten on the agenda mistakenly, I think, or inadvertently last meeting, which was approximately 2 weeks ago. And so obviously, you know, the motion was made then or decided that the proper time would be this meeting. I know County Clerk Turner had advised that needed to be done after May the 8th, so we put it on this agenda. I think all three of these citizens are fine people and very qualified. They've all been great servants in the community, one of whom is a former county attorney and former county judge executive, which I think would be very helpful in this process. And I think he's actually been through this process when he was an elected official at least once and maybe twice, as far as the reapportionment goes. So I think it's a timely judge, and I don't know, Judge, since the last 2 weeks, if anyone else has submitted any more names. Obviously, we knew this was going to be on the agenda, but
Well, someone wanted to discuss them in open court. That's why I waited to discuss any names, because I suggested, and another magistrate said, I would rather discuss them in open court. That's why I didn't go behind anyone's back and submit any
well,
names.
Judge, if anybody has any issues with any of these three individuals, certainly now would be the time to do it.
I don't think it's issues. I think it's the opportunity to submit other names, Magistrate Davis.
Well, and I don't know, have you received any more names, Judge, in the last 2 weeks since this first came up in our last fiscal
No,
court
sir.
meeting?
Well,
You have not? Okay.
well, I have names.
Okay.
But again,
Well-
I was trying to go by the wishes of the court and discuss them in an open meeting.
Judge, we're discussing this order in an open meeting. It's been before the court now in the 2 meetings. Everybody knew this was coming. County clerk had advised us weeks ago, we need to do this.
So it's now the right time to
Judge,
submit
if I
other
may,
names?
Judge, just for everybody, those of us that haven't been through the process, this is the first time I've been through the process, but I know that before, in years past, before COVID, this would have done a long time ago. The legislature gave all the counties a break, essentially, to get through COVID. This, in normal circumstances, would have probably been done a year longer. Last year, would have been
last
done a
year.
year ago. I think it's critical. We don't have to decide it today. I think we should, because I think we need to seat this committee. We need to get these people working on getting these districts done and working with the clerk. They're all eminently qualified. They're all fantastic community members. I don't know if we all know them, but I know all three. I think most of them know them. I don't think there's anything wrong with the character qualifications or experience or attitudes of any of these three people, so.
I don't think anyone objects.
I
I
think
think we
they
just need to
deserve a vote.
discuss them. That was the point of the discussion we had about a month ago, was to discuss them in open meeting before we have an order prepared. And I'm prepared to do that.
You know, when it comes to a fiscal court appointment, any member of the body can nominate something, nominate an individual. When it comes to reappointment of a treasurer, any one of us at any time can make a motion or submit a request for this person to be nominated and be considered. Just like a few weeks or a month or so ago, we were needing somebody to sit on the tax board. Magistrate Blanton, nobody else might have brought up any names, and magistrate comments, you randomly brought up a name, and we took it up in action. Nobody threw other names out there. We didn't beat them around to discuss them. That's you can say neat thing or thing about a fiscal court nomination. Anybody can do it at any time and make a motion, and if they get a second and get a majority of the vote.
But that's what I proposed to do several months ago, and submit it to us, but no one wanted to do that, and you yourself said you would like to discuss it in open court.
I just said we can all do it in open court.
Okay, well, let's do it
We're
today
doing
then.
it. I mean, somebody submits a name, you discuss it and vote on them.
But Magistrate Davis took it upon himself to go ahead and have an order prepared.
And that's his
So-
right,
Yeah.
as a member of the body.
But we had already discussing them in open court, and he chose to not go by that. He chose to go ahead and have an order prepared with three names he chose.
Yeah, but I think we discussed that before, that it was done inadvertently and put out inadvertently. I don't have a problem with discussing names. The only negative side that I would do, and Robert, I don't think you meant anything specifically by it, but I don't like it where it gives the impression that we've done something behind hand. That term was probably
Well, I
not the
mean,
best
well,
term
that
to
may
use.
not have been the right term, but that
just-
may appear that way to the public because we had discussed doing it in open court.
Correct, but by throwing that out, it throws to the public fuel to
And-
think that we've
And,
done
you know,
something.
we can discuss these three, and we can discuss any, and I've got some names if no one else has.
I'd say go ahead and discuss them.
Well, at some point, Judge, there's procedurally, I mean, I made a motion, it was seconded. Magistrate Blanton made a motion to, I guess, to continue or to table it. So procedurally, we need to figure out how we're gonna move forward. So,
Well, with the motion,
I don't know if it was seconded or not. I didn't hear a second, but
It wasn't seconded.
we would have to vote on this amendment or this order first.
No, there's been no second on the delaying
well,
it, so
if there's a
that motion
second.
fails, because there's no second.
Is there no second?
Now we can discuss the first motion.
And with that, I'll call the question.
Okay, on the first one, the first order is to approve the appointment as outlined in the fiscal court order.
that's right.
That's what is before you at this moment.
Well, I'd like the opportunity to discuss the names I wanted to bring forward, like we had previously discussed. Even though Magistrate Davis didn't agree to it, he didn't say anything, so I still think we need to be afforded the opportunity to discuss names for this
I
committee.
think it's out of order, Judge. I mean, there's a motion on the
you
floor,
think
it's been
you think
seconded.
everything's out of order.
It's been a call to question, and we know how the rules work.
You think everything's out of order.
Okay.
So we had a motion and a second.
You gotta call the question.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion? And just so that everybody knows, as soon as the question is called, that's just a term that means that all debate stops and we take a vote on this question in front of you. So those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Absolutely not.
Would it be out of order for me to ask a question to you, Judge? What was the reason that, I know we discussed it with Robert being able to talk about some more names, but what was the reason that we put the same thing back on the agenda? It seemed like it,
Because when we, if I may, Judge,
Go ahead, please.
when we had the meeting last, when it inadvertently got on the agenda last meeting,
correct.
we talked to county clerk that it did not need to be decided before May 8th. She needed something done after May 8th.
Correct.
So then the motion was made to table it, or to pass it to this agenda, to the May 10th agenda.
Okay, so that it was for
so
sure
then
gonna be on
To
Judge-
allow more
Judge-
time to submit
The
names.
judge properly put it on the May 10th agenda. That's why it's on the
That
May
makes
10th
sense.
agenda.
Okay.
That was the motion made in the last meeting,
Okay.
at the end of April.
That makes sense.
Wasn't inadvertently put on the agenda, you asked it to be put on the agenda.
And Judge put it on the agenda.
So, no
Which was-
inadvertent.
which
It
was his
intent-
decision.
You intended it to be put on there.
That's why
For
people
whatever
asked for
reason,
something
I
to be
don't know.
done, so, okay.
Right.
So, moving on to item number 15. Consider of approval accepting the Clark County Sheriff's tax settlement for 2023.
You need a motion to approve that, correct?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor say, or any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next will be item 16, is to consider an order of the Clark County Fiscal Court approving the hiring of Ariana Dixon to fill an open position of a, I think we have a misprint, instead of full-time, I believe that should say part-time. Firefighter, was it? I'm sorry.
is kennel
I'm
attendant.
sorry. I'm sorry. Kennel attendant in the Clark County Animal Shelter, and I believe that's supposed to be part-time. Right. Yeah, yeah, cross that.
Her sheet is marked part-time on the back.
Yeah,
It'd be part-time?
yes,
Her sheet is marked part-time if you read the sheet on the back.
So we're amending the order
yes, sir.
of part-time.
Right.
We have a motion on the floor for that?
I make a motion
I make
that.
a motion that we approve that for part-time.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm gonna vote no, the hire date's May the 4th.
Okay. I think that was discussed in the
We
last.
did. We did.
Item number 17 is to consider an order of the Clark County Fiscal Court approving the hiring of Jonathan Sebastian to fill an open position of a full-time firefighter in the Clark County Fire Department. Should have that motion in front of you. Or
Motion
that-
to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider approval of an order of the Clark County Fiscal Court reappointing Ron Toller to the East Clark County Water District Board of Commissioners.
Judge, I make a motion to reject that nominee.
So basically to not approve it.
I'll second for discussion.
So we have a motion to not accept Ron Toller to that board, and we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Judge, I was on that, Judge Pace put me on that water district, and I was on it for 35 months, 3 years. And there's a lot of issues going on with our local water district. We all know how important infrastructure is. Just went to a meeting on Saturday where some state candidates talked about the infrastructure needs in Clark County, and with all the issues going on in the water district, the gentleman appointed has been on there for 30 years, and I believe that it's time for a new set of eyes and some new leadership.
I'm not a parliamentarian, but wouldn't the proper procedure be is to just deny this proposal here as opposed to approve something else rejecting this order? I mean,
Yeah, I think we've clarified that. We're just basically going to vote on whether to approve this or not.
Okay.
And we're in the discussion phase
Okay.
right now.
Just make sure what we was voting on.
Yes, sir.
For me and my constituents, what kind of issues are happening on that water area that would be a concern that would say as far as rejection or acceptance of this individual?
Last year's public service audit, got a copy of it. Utility is failing to operate its facilities so as to provide adequate and safe service to its customers as required by 807 KRS 5066, Section 7, due to water loss exceeding 15%. On January of this year, water loss was 19.59% at an estimated $80,000 per year water loss going into the ground. I have, it was discussed following this inspection from the Public Service Commission, no action taken. I have the audit report from the last 3 years. Had an employee that no action would be taken against, and again, this coming straight from our auditor, numerous voided and missing checks could not be located. Again, this went on for 3 years. I couldn't get anything done about it, and I have the meeting minutes where we would discuss, no action be taken. And one of the things that bothers me the most recently, I have an email from Bluegrass Ag where Magistrate Davis helped in establishing clean water grants to help us try to get our water loss under control. And we were appropriated in week 36 of 2021, $350,000. The sewer district already has its money ready to spend. WMU has its money ready to spend. And out of a punch list of 10 action items, the district is on number 4 in 2 years. Also, she shared with us on week number 28 in 2022, Magistrate Davis, in our absence, divided some clean water money 3 ways, $748,000 that they've had for a year that could go against saving the $80,000 that all of us on East Clark County Water are having to pay for. That $1.1 million total, the $749,000, I've got an email, they've not even filled the paperwork out to get it. Every department head in this county operates off federal grant money. It's laced in our budget. And we have a water district that the leadership won't make sure its employees fills out the paperwork to get $1.1 million to save the district $80,000 water loss a year. It's time for new leadership.
Didn't you also say earlier, they said that we were at 19 in the water loss?
Yeah, I've got the water
Did I hear
loss
something
report.
along the lines that if it gets to 30, they'll actually shut us down? Is that a correct statement?
Since 2019, the current PSC has took to court and took control of 13 water districts over water loss.
Are we still at 19, do you know? Or did
I
we?
think bringing some of this to light, some of it is coming down.
So-
But again,
But it took to bring it to light to make that happen instead of doing it on their own?
I think we're either at 17 or maybe 16 last hour.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, the question before you then is to consider approving the reappointing Ron Toller to the East Clark County Water District Board of Commissioners. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Judge, I think the motion was to deny the appointment.
I'm sorry. Well, I think that's what we were talking about here. I think that the real question would be to vote yes or no on appointing him, reappointing him.
Well, we need to make sure we get that right, because an aye vote's gonna mean one thing for one.
Is denying the appointment, is that a proper motion, County Attorney?
County attorney, the fiscal court can make any motion, if it receives a second, it has to be voted on, so.
So if I vote
I
yea,
didn't
what does that
write
mean?
down the motion, I don't know what it was.
What was
I think
it?
you said to reject the
I've got
nomination.
Pasley and Constables to reject the nominee.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what they moved.
So that I would say yea.
That's the question at hand.
So an aye vote would be
Sit down.
To
to
reject.
approve and reject, approve their motion and reject the
Yes,
nomination.
yes.
Okay, an aye vote.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So that motion carries. Item number 19, consider approval of a memorandum of agreement for the virtual range of court equipment.
And I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve.
And I think that just the short version of this is that the court system, AOC, is wanting to do more trials, more court business. And I think the county attorney could explain this better, but just to have more virtual court meetings. So that's what this is about, and I think the number I saw is somewhere, when this materializes, it's in 40-some thousand.
46,257.48.
There you go.
And then just a point of record, and you may want to add this in the minute, just so we're all aware of it moving forward and have record of it, is that when we receive reimbursement of this, is that we must replace it back into the commissary fund.
Exactly.
It's one of
So
the,
if you could amend my motion, Madam Clerk.
So as an understanding, the reason that we're doing the virtual, for our constituents to understand, is because there's risk when you take the inmates even from court, if they run across, for instance, their victims' families, or it costs more to have an officer, deputy have to take them, et cetera. So this is gonna save us money by doing this, is that correct?
Maybe the county attorney can speak to this, but isn't this the AOC moving toward this, forcing everybody to move towards the
Well,
virtual?
it talks about safety and stuff in the memo.
You know, it's only been a handful of years ago that when our detainee movements were much smaller than they are now, that the defendant upstairs hit Jailer Dole in the mouth with his handcuffs and caused significant lacerations and injury. An instance that would not have been, an opportunity would not have been available to the prisoner had he not been over here to begin with. So what this does is it reduces the movement of prisoners from place to place for security and safety. I don't know that you could say that it saves money, but that aside, it certainly provides an opportunity to save risk of injury, risk of escape, and those sort of things. And to some degree, these functions or facilities are already in place. They're just extremely unreliable because they're outdated. They need to be replaced.
Thank you.
So give me your motion again, but I don't have a second yet.
I'll second that.
motion and second.
It's a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement for virtual arrangement and court equipment, and that when reimbursed, that the money will be, or the commissary account will be reimbursed.
Okay. This is one of the few things that the AOC has agreed that can be paid for out of the commissary fund on the condition that it's reimbursed. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 20 is to consider approval of the Division of Wastewater Management of the Tire Waste Grant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we need to include that you can sign any documents, or is that just part of the motion?
I'll amend it to give authority to the judge executive to sign any documents so necessary, as necessary.
Thank you.
You already got a second?
Who had the second?
Davis.
Do you amend your second?
Sure.
Mr. Davis?
See the reason this guy's mad.
We have a motion before you.
That's,
We okay?
we're good.
Have a motion and a second to approve the tire waste grant and allowing the judge executive to sign the necessary papers. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 21 is to consider an order approving Magistrate Thompson opting out of the Kentucky retirement system.
I'll make a motion for purposes of discussion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Looks like this saves us $10,473. So I'm all for that.
So I understand, Judge, that Magistrate Thompson had initially opted out of the pension system. Is that
That's
how you
correct.
understand this? And yet they, I guess, it's attempted to bill us for his, what
Yep.
would have been his contributions.
Right.
That makes sense.
Just for point of interest, how did we catch that when they billed us for it, the 10,000?
Because I got a big bill for $10,000.
Was it separate, well, I mean, because those are pre-authorized bills, that's why I'm wondering how it didn't get paid.
I think the judge has been, I think Judge Branham had been
It's been
disapproving
through
them
the
and,
process,
and then
yeah.
they've, yeah.
County attorney. I took it over from there, so it's been a process because he had a little bit, formally, he got opted out, and then they changed the rules, and then they tried to bill us.
So
it went
this is,
So this is
all the way back to 2019. So I had been in discussions with Judge Branham and the county attorney, and that is why the bill did not get paid, because we did not agree that we were supposed to pay it.
So we're just saying here that we're just saying not to pay this bill, even though there may be a final order from the Kentucky retirement system forcing us to pay it, is the way I interpret this.
Well, I don't have it right in my hand. Of course, I could grab it and maybe see that that's exactly what it says. What was intended to be said was unless we someday receive a final order from them, that would be subject to appeal, that it's not to be paid. So, the factual and legal involvement surrounding that invoice are too involved for me to recite them from memory. I could raise the emails and we could go over them in detail, but at the end of the day, I think the Kentucky Retirement System's legal counsel is aware that unless they provide a final order from the Kentucky Systems Retirement Board determining that Magistrate Thompson for membership purposes was in fact a Clark County employee, we don't intend to pay the bill. So the concern was that it would get accidentally paid because, as you suggested, it is a prepayable type invoice. While in the meantime, I've been in the back and forth with retirement systems. They've not answered that question since December 22nd or 28th. So some time has gone by, and they've not persisted in trying to make their case. So will they renew that at some point in time? I wouldn't offer a guess. I mean, they will or they will not. If they do, we should take up our case with it at that point.
I'll make sure that the new the new county treasurer. They get the direction. I mean, they're not supposed to pay those bills.
I think the most interesting detail that you'll see in the records that are in front of you is that while Magistrate Thompson, if in fact he ever became eligible, would have been January 2019, but these adjustments are being offered by the retirement systems no earlier than November or December 21. So 35 months later, they come to the court with a bill, expecting us to just pay it.
Any further?
Thanks for the explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you all will get me a date for that right there, right?
Alicia knows the date. I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There was nothing, no reasons to adjourn to closed session. One final thing, we have a note in the minutes for the fire department's report for the month of April 2023. Okay, next thing on the agenda then will be magistrate comments.
None.
Judge, the road supervisor mentioned that he needs a motion to participate in the reverse salt auction.
Yeah, that's been handled.
It has been handled.
We normally have to vote to approve that.
Was that added? That was supposed to be, yeah, actually, he had sent me the email, I responded, and we was all in agreement, and I do not have that with me, so I guess, could we go ahead and make a motion on it?
Could I offer a motion to
Yes.
participate in that salt auction?
Keiko
second.
Reverse salt auction?
Right,
Keiko salt auction?
Reverse salt.
Reverse salt.
Yeah.
yeah.
Salt auction? What is reverse salt?
Reverse salt auction.
And for those that don't know, that Keiko does an auction and it actually bids down and they try to get the lowest bidder, and then that way we can purchase the salt from them.
Okay.
Do we have a second on that?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Motion is second. Those, any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything further? Magister Miller?
No, I'd just like to say, when we had our special meeting on Monday, I was glad that we worked through that and got everything taken care of. It was cordial and it was very productive, and I think we came up with the money we were looking for. We want to continue to work in that direction.
Thanks. Yes, Judge, after our meeting the other night, Ernie Sammons, who's with us from the jail, had mentioned the possibility of, especially maybe while we're shorthanded on cleaning staff, if maybe they could make some inmates available with, obviously with supervision, a deputy supervising to do some cleaning. And I thought that might be a good, at least carryover until we get a little better staff. So there might be some opportunities there to work with the jail on getting a supervised person or people over here, inmates, to help with some cleaning. So just a thought, maybe in the next couple weeks, we'd have that conversation with Jailer Doyle and Deputy Sammons about that, so.
Yeah, I think they were over here a few days ago or something.
Yesterday, no.
Yeah.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a good opportunity, so.
Yeah, one of the things that's happening here too, the janitor in the annex is gonna have major surgery, so we're gonna lose him for the month of June. So, it's an ongoing issue.
That's all I had. Thank you, Judge.
Magister Bland.
After we had our budget meeting, I got an email from Tony Kirk with regards to him. And Tony, would you like to come up and explain that for the public so we'll know what that proposed budget cut does to your operation? And that was discussed the other night. I mean, we was on YouTube, but there was no public hearing. I don't know if anybody else saw it or not, but I know you was concerned about it. And I didn't tell you I was going to ask you to do this, but since you did send us this email, I would appreciate it for the public to be knowledgeable of what what that
Sure.
could infer.
The industry standard, pretty simple, is 30 persons per agent that's on.
Yep.
That would have my, 5 people on my staff. Right now, I have me and 2 part-time, which makes us 2. So I waited till the budget. If we don't get those particular people, then I have no choice but to decrease the number of people I have on. And the only place they're gonna go is the jail, and that takes revenue away from the jail.
You had proposed 150.
Right.
And
I have
the number-
150 on,
and
and
the-
what I proposed was 2 full-time people, keeping my 2 part-time people, and that would give me a total of 5. That would get me at the 150 mark. And that's just maintaining what I have now. That's not increasing my budget. I mean, that's not increasing the amount of people I have on. That's not doing anything but maintaining what I have now. I've maintained that for the last year with just us 2, with me working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the most part, and on call. So I either need some help, or we're gonna have to reduce the amount of people we have on.
And again, like I told Ms. Wilson, we didn't see any of the supporting documentation for your request, and that's why I thought it important that you,
Right, and I know we are at that point where we talked about Madison County, but Madison County is not gonna finance our whole program. I mean, they are going to work with us and maybe pay some sort of, maybe my salary, something like that, or part of my salary while I'm going over there and supervising it, but they are not gonna come over here and give us money for our people while we're monitoring our people.
and then again, for every dollar we spend with you saves us how many dollars in the jail? Have you ever figured that out?
I got.
I'm sure you could tell me if you get it.
I got it right here. I mean, for every dollar you allocated, you receive 30% back, and every dollar you put in, you get 10 times the amount back in savings. So, that's just where I'm at with my budget. I mean, y'all are the body, y'all have to make the decisions. But I can't ethically or, in good faith, let that many people out on home incarceration without being supervised correctly. And I don't think any judge that we have here is going to allow that to continue on either.
Sorry for the surprise.
You're right.
Thank you, Tony.
Couple other things, if I may, Judge.
Yes, sir.
I would move that we move the June 14th meeting to June the 7th. The 14th is almost 3 weeks away from the last meeting of May, and the 14th is also the Judge and Magistrates Conference. So for those 2 reasons, I would move that we move the 14th meeting to June the 7th.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Make a second.
We have a second. Magistrate Miller? Is that-
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
Does everybody make that, June 7th?
I can't make that one. Magistrate Blanton, would you consider amending your motion to the
Well, I was just,
12th?
to when?
The 12th?
We could, I just was picking another Wednesday, and it would be 2 weeks out, so.
What time on the 12th? I can't do.
6 o'clock?
6 PM on June 12th?
We can do that.
Yeah, I could do that.
Robert, you okay with that?
That's a Monday night?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Good work for you, Steve?
Yeah.
That work for everybody? June 12th at 9?
You want to amend your,
Oh, 6, sorry.
Say it again.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to June the 12th at 6 PM.
Second.
We already,
we have a motion?
we already had a
Okay.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now, that will be a special meeting,
Yes, sir.
so. May I continue?
Yes.
In light of what we talked about this morning, Judge, could you have some representatives of East Clark County Water District come before the court and discuss those issues with us in full at a future meeting? I think the public, if it's an issue, the public needs to be aware of it and how to resolve those issues. And since I know I've been to a couple of East Clark County Water District meetings, not recently, but I have in the past, and there's no press coverage, and very few other people attend, so if we do have issues, we need to address those, and perhaps we need to get the feedback from those involved, and the public needs to be aware of it.
And Magistrate Blanton, to your point, I think at some point, however we do it, whether it's through ordinance or what, I think we need to implement something to where we get quarterly reports of what's going on at the water
I agree
district.
with that.
Well, I've mentioned in 2 previous courts that every agency that's responsible to us needs to submit reports, and I've always gotten nowhere with that suggestion, so I've given up on that. Haven't mentioned it to this particular court, but I've mentioned it on numerous occasions to other courts, and no one ever seems to think it's necessary, so maybe it's time, and we'll get some reports from all the agencies and do just like the city does, have a list of all their minutes and agendas, and just put them in the packet, and just for informational purposes. And maybe at some point in time that idea will come to fruition, but again, I've suggested it multiple times and it's never happened, so thank you for your comment.
Have you proposed anything, Magistrate Blanton?
Not
I mean,
recently.
Put it together, propose it.
Not recently.
I will support it.
Not recently, I haven't.
So take,
I mean, it doesn't do any good for me to put a proposal together because it always gets voted down.
I just told you, put it together and I'll support it.
Yeah,
I'll support it.
I'll leave that.
That wasn't nice.
This, excuse me, this
put it
water
together.
district person, would the
You
manager?
can have the chairman, the manager, whoever wants to come.
Okay.
That's up to them. Final comment. Final comment, I think that order on the reapportionment was totally out of line with what we had suggested to do, and
Can we bring this
I've had several phone calls about it, and
past?
maybe the public will contact you all about it as well. That's all I have, Judge.
Yeah, I just have one small thing here. This just kind of came in late, and I think you have it on your, you should have it, I think, Leonard, to appoint Haley Cunningham.
Oh, yeah, I
to
did
the-
see that.
Pardon?
I did see that.
Yeah,
I
that was a
think you
question I
should
was just
have
getting
it,
ready to
yeah.
ask.
There's a vacancy as of right now from Christopher Benavides, and this is to fill that vacancy, and that term will expire June the 30th of 2024. So if we could just get a motion on this to approve this.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
Yes, Judge, for discussion and just to give a little backstory for the new members and yourself, the individual that is wanting to be appointed here has also been involved with the fiscal court in regards to the community fund foundation or fiscal court fund, however you want to call it and classify it. From the time that I had served as interim judge executive, when Judge Pace passed away, we had conversations. They basically control the money as it comes to us. They tried to put this individual tried to put in additional stipulations on those funds. At that time, we fought it and got that released. When Judge Branham was here, this was as of last year, the same individual tried to put more restrictions onto it and said basically, we're not releasing your funds until you sign this. We have an agreement that goes back to the 1990s from the sale of the Rockwell building and when this fund was established. And ultimately, it came to a point to where we had to get legal involved. The county attorney got involved. The foundation had to hire outside legal counsel and basically said that this individual had no authority to do what was done. Our agreement stands as placed. And because of that, I felt like the court was, in my opinion, being deceived on trying to implement us to put more restrictions on how these funds were going to be spent, even though that we had the full authority to do it based on our agreement. And for those reasons alone, I cannot support this nomination, and that's the only reason.
Would you like to address this?
Well, I'm surprised because Haley is very qualified. She's an attorney. She works for a very large foundation, and I don't think Haley herself has the authority to put any imposition on the board.
Any further, we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion failed.
Move my,
Robert.
just one more.
Okay, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Motion to.
Motion is second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Fred Crabtree. Who's my second?
I didn't do it.
Oh, okay, who's my second? Martin, okay.